This is the story of one man's quest to keep the dream alive, to become a rocket man.
I love the smell of peroxide in the morning.
It's a story of obsession.
You know this phrase, it's not rocket science? Well, this is rocket science.
Danger.
You know, you have a bomb strapped to your body. You really do. This is deadly serious business.
If something breaks, you're going to fall and die.
And disappointments.
It isn't something you're going to learn in 4 or 5 flights. It's not.
Nothing can be that tricky. Actually, it is.
To be a rocket man takes more than courage. It helps to be a little bit crazy. David Mayman is a successful Australian entrepreneur with a passion for flying.
I was kind of a very normal corporate kind of guy. I used to be a management consultant and all very suit and tie, and then finally I thought, you know, this is enough, and I just went down a different track.
Aviation has always been my passion since I was, since I can remember, since I was 10 years old. It started with rockets and then, from memory, remote control aeroplanes. I could fly before I could drive, at 16 years old, saved up and got my license. And that was a little Cessna, and then I started flying helicopters. But none of those gave me what I thought was the ultimate sense of flight, where there's no infrastructure around you, there's no cabin or cockpit or engines and that kind of thing. So my dream is really to be able to fly with my own, my own suit. It's effectively like you're flying yourself. Superman.
He set himself an incredibly ambitious target: to be the first person to pilot a rocket belt over Sydney's iconic harbour.
We'll look at taking off from the left here towards the Opera House, and we'll put the barge right in the middle here. You and I have to work out just what distance the barge will work at. All right. But it'll be fantastic.
This machine wasn't invented in Hollywood. It was the brainchild of Bell engineer Wendell Moore. In the 1950s, Moore came up with the idea that a rocket belt could be used for everyday transportation.
The first rocket belt was flown in the early 1960s at Bell Aerospace, and the basic design hasn't changed since then. Wendell Moore dreamt that his invention would revolutionize military, surveillance, and rescue operations. But Bell Aerospace struggled to solve some big problems. The machines are incredibly difficult to fly. To this day, only a handful of pilots have ever mastered this temperamental contraption. The fuel, made from refined hydrogen peroxide, is extremely volatile. The military were ultimately left unimpressed. David has come to San Francisco to attend the world's second rocket belt convention. He's like a kid in a candy store.
Why am I falling over?
It's a rare chance to meet fellow rocket fanatics and to pick up some pointers from the most famous rocketeer flying today, Eric Scott.
Sure is. That's the most secretive part of the whole machine, really. Right. That most people don't just want to give you right off the bat, and they're not going to give you information on how to build one.
This is the first time I've actually seen a real rocket belt, and I get to see it actually fly.
The noise was incredible. I mean, it's like a blast of air, and it's incredibly shrill. Just to watch the guy sail off like this, perfectly in control, like a ballerina, basically. Do a pirouette, go down the runway, come back, land right in front of us. It was fantastic. Maybe I'm being a little bit naive here, but it doesn't look that difficult or that dangerous.
The main reason for David coming to the convention is to hook up with legendary rocket belt engineer Nelson Tyler.
Instead of 22-second flight time, it says about 30-second flight time.
Nelson Tyler is an inventor whose work in Hollywood has won him 3 Academy Awards. Among his many creations, the helicopter film mount, and even the original jet ski. Back in the 60s, Nelson secretly photographed the Bell Aerospace rocket belt, and then in a garage in Los Angeles, he built his own from scratch.
I saw it on TV. That was it. It was just like, oh God, I gotta have one of those.
Nelson Tyler is the most ingenious guy that I've heard about.
Those two are prototypes that are just made out of wood and foam.
Here's a guy that has built one of these effectively in his own workshop.
All sheet metal, all formed. Pretty neat, huh?
So it's a guy with that kind of degree of ingenuity that I need to have on board.
I think David's one of these guys like I was at his age, had to have one of everything, you know, at least one of everything. And so he's got to have a rocket belt.
David has enlisted the help of Nelson to execute his grand plan for a flight over Sydney Harbour.
The plan, Nelson, is to set up a barge here in Farm Cove, and this is the Botanical Gardens, and to fly from the Botanical Gardens out, you know, quite a good way, you know, sort of 300-400 metres or something onto the barge.
You've got to be kidding.
He said, okay, I want you to build me a rocket belt. And I said, no, too many things here, and it's, you know, it runs for 20 seconds, you can't get the fuel anymore. There's just no way.
While Nelson is happy to give this budding rocketeer guidance, David will need to find someone else to build his rocket belt. David has flown halfway around the world to enlist help from an unlikely source.
Juan's a bit of a crazy guy.
Juan Manuel Lozano is an engineer with a passion for all things rocket.
For me, it's my passion to make rockets, any kind of rocket. I love making rockets. I can make rockets even in my spare time.
If you can fix a rocket to it, Juan will build it. His creations include backstrapped helicopters, dragster bikes, and rocket go-karts. He's even made a 1,000 horsepower rocket bicycle.
The first time I rode the rocket bicycle, I got in 1 second 128 kilometers an hour, and I crashed just outside my house.
Oh. Yeah.
Juan has agreed to build David's rocket belt for his treacherous flight across Sydney Harbour. The first step is to be fitted for a graphite corset.
Wetsuit material?
Uh-huh. This is the only way you can do it for me a very comfortable corset, because this is exactly done for your body.
It's a very special treatment at a beauty spa.
In 5 hours you will be ready.
Oh, good. Yeah. How many hours, really?
Really, 5 hours.
Yeah?
Yeah. I was not kidding.
I think he's kidding.
While David waits, Juan gets back to work on the rocket itself. A task not to be underestimated. There are only 3 fully operational rocket belts in the world today. Across the globe in Sussex, England, another rocket belt enthusiast has learned firsthand how difficult it is to build and fly your very own rocket belt.
12 people have walked on the moon. 11 people have flown untethered and in control a rocket belt.
Stuart Ross has been attempting to build and fly a rocket belt for over 5 years.
We built the first one. We thought, fantastic, it's going to work, it's going to fly. Forget it, didn't work, didn't fly. In fact, I fired it up once and that was a nightmare. Spot the old British flags. The rocket belt looks pretty straightforward, but there's a lot going on underneath those panels and inside those pipes and inside the engine of the rocket belt as well. That's a very demanding piece of kit that has to be done right.
A rocket belt is made up of 2 outer tanks of fuel and 1 tank of highly pressurized nitrogen gas in a stainless steel frame. At its heart is the engine of the rocket belt, the catalyst pack. Inside the pack are layers of silver-coated screens. The instant the hydrogen peroxide fuel, H2O2, hits the silver catalyst, a molecule of oxygen is released, creating pure water, H2O. The reaction generates a temperature of 730 degrees Celsius. And in 0.2 of a millisecond, the water expands 5,000 times its volume, sending a jet of high-pressure steam supersonically down the thrust tubes.
This catalyst is made of silver. This is 90% peroxide.
So this is the fuel that we use in the rocket.
And check the reaction.
So that's steam, effectively.
Steam and oxygen.
The thing about the rocket belt, the fuel consumption, it's astronomical. This thing is burning 3 times more fuel than a fully laden 185-ton 767, which is bonkers.
Furthermore, this fuel is highly unstable. It is not the type of peroxide to turn brunettes blonde.
This is a piece of leather. You will see what happened when it's...
That was fast.
Not only is the fuel extremely volatile, it's also incredibly difficult to obtain. Juan thinks he has a solution. Make it himself.
So the water ends up in here,
And the water...
and the pure hydrogen peroxide comes back into here.
If David is to achieve his dream of becoming a rocket man, he'll need to ensure he has a steady supply of this hazardous fuel. During the months required for Juan to build his rocket belt, David commences a crucial weight loss regime.
The issue is that the heavier that you are, the more that the rocket motor has to work. So the lighter that you are, the less fuel you use. I weigh too much. You can't believe it, can you? But I weigh too much. Got to lose about 20 kilos, 45 pounds or thereabouts. I don't want to go crazy with this whole thing because I've never really been that much into exercise, so it's a shock to the system already. That's enough of that. The thought of doing that for another year is going to kill me. Whew. Must be the altitude here or something, or the, I don't know.
Back in Mexico, engineer Juan Manuel Lozano has been working on David's rocket belt for months, and it's finally ready.
We're in Cuernavaca, and we're going to see the rocket belt for the first time. Oh, Juan. Hello. There's so many of them. Which one is... number one. Wow, very pretty one. Look at everything's finished, all of the
Everything.
installation.
Everything.
But it's not as simple as strapping it on and shooting for the stars. David will need to spend months training on a tethered restraint, just like all the Rocketeers that came before him.
Early tests were risky at best. It involved learning to fly the contraption on a tethered test rig. Moore was the belt's first victim.
I caught in the so-called safety rope and flipped me sideways, cut the rope, and I landed flat on the hangar floor and broke my kneecap.
Tomorrow is a big day for David that will make his first flight. I hope him the best. He is very nervous. He's very apprehensive, and you can know from all his actions.
David calls Nelson for some last-minute advice.
So Nelson, would you mind just giving me any last words of advice the night before I try this thing?
Absolutely. Get strapped in really well, really snug, especially the bottom leg thing.
The sort of closer you get to it, the more you think about the implications of something going wrong. And I'm not necessarily by heart a sort of a thrill seeker. I guess I probably am, but I'm not a reckless one.
It's like when you are in the roller coaster. You are in the motion to the top of the roller coaster, and you don't have escape. You have to do it.
Head for the ground and go along the ground rather than go up to 1,000 feet.
Yeah, even if you're ricocheting around, you know.
I guess the real bugbear for me, or the real concern, and the thing that's quite outnumber of people in training and when they're flying, is the throttle valve. And The last thing you want is a stuck throttle valve, particularly if it's stuck wide open. But I just hope I don't go full throttle and go like a mini space shuttle without a parachute. That's something I'll probably dream about tonight.
Getting ready.
The only thing separating the pilot and a tank of volatile fuel is a thin plastic suit.
We ready, Juan?
Yeah. Are you?
I'm ready.
The time for David's first tether flight has finally arrived.
Stand up a little bit.
I can't, that's it.
You will give a small burst
Yeah.
to check that everything is decomposing. You will do a full power, and you will take off.
Okay.
Full power.
Something is not right. There's a problem with the catalyst, and raw peroxide is escaping, burning everything that it touches. At this level of purity, contact with the peroxide will cause serious burns and blindness.
The catalyst is not working. Well, you can't fly, but you have a fumigator.
Yeah. The worst part of that is getting it in the eyes, breathing in the vapor and getting the mist, the peroxide in your eyes.
David's maiden test flight has left him grounded.
Oh. There was a heap of power there, and you could really feel it lifting you off the ground. And then the more I came on with the throttle, I actually lost power. And you could feel it spluttering and actually came back down again. And I think what was happening is that peroxide was passing through the catalyst undecomposed.
There are many things that can cause catalyst failure. They suspect the problem might lie with Juan's homemade peroxide.
So what's the plan, do you think, Juan?
You will not be able to fly it again.
Bugger.
But there's another problem. Even if Juan perfects his fuel, he won't be able to produce nearly enough for David to complete his training.
All right, so that's that. It's a bit frustrating.
David called, he had basically just said, the fuel doesn't work and the thing doesn't work, and can I bring it up there and you can just look at it? I'll bring it up and just look at it.
David must return to Los Angeles to see Nelson Tyler. With no working belt and no fuel to fly, David's dream of becoming a rocket man seems as elusive as ever. David arrives back at Nelson Tyler's facility in Los Angeles. Nelson has agreed to assist David with his mad plan.
Quite a good way.
You got me, kid.
Juan has also arrived from Mexico with David's belt in tow. But Nelson and his engineer Robert Knight are keen to make some fine adjustments before David takes any more risks.
And the length looks reasonable to you, Nelson, from your...
Yeah, it's maybe a little short. Juan has put a lot of work, a lot of effort into it. You got to give him that, but a lot of things weren't quite right, so we've been working on it, changing the handles to fit David, mostly safety things.
Meanwhile, outside, David prepares the safety tether. For the next 2 weeks, this facility is going to be David's school of rocket.
Well, we trimmed him back just a little. Still give him a nice cushion so he doesn't hit the building. We'd hate to damage our building.
We're going to get Bill Suter.
There's some good news. His flight instructor is to be the greatest rocket belt pilot of all time, Bill Suter.
Whoa, you're David? Hey, Bill, how are you?
Bill was just 19 when he first strapped on a rocket, and he still holds the record for the greatest number of flights. He was James Bond. He made appearances on TV shows like Lost in Space. and the most famous flight of all, the opening of the 1984 LA Olympics. In 1970, Bill Suter paid a visit from Bell Aerospace to advise Nelson on his first tethered flights.
We got him in the parking lot out here. He's looking at everything. He's really impressed, I could tell, you know.
It was gorgeous. You know, all the parts were machined beautifully and the welding was perfect. And I thought, yeah, I'll fly this thing.
When I was flying out there, anything, I'm like, you know, you really got to keep control of this thing. So he lights it off and he goes down one end, does a big turn, and he's coming back. He lets go one side and he goes like this. This is great. He's flying with one hand, you know, and he's zipping down the parking lot, signaling, yeah, this is good.
After a gap of 40 years, the old team is back together.
I've got the best trainer and this famous guy for this device that I've always dreamt about in the same place, and they're there actually to help me. Fantastic. It was a real honor. It was a real honor.
Is there a tank guard goes on here or not?
No, I know. That's the first thing I'm going to do is build a tank guard with them.
I myself, you know, I've seen a lot of these projects, people, they don't take it serious enough. It looks so easy, and it looks so simple. We're not playing with toys here or something that you built in your basement workshop. This is deadly serious business, and we got to take it that way. You can get killed doing this, I mean, very easily.
David's managed to find the elusive hydrogen peroxide fuel from the only place in the world that supplies it, a lab in far north Sweden. The training can now begin.
Didn't go well in Mexico, but I've got Bill here, I've got Nelson here. I'm feeling the pressure. Now's the time just to step up to the plate and make this thing work.
Don't worry about going up.
Okay.
Just if you can get just high enough to get out of the ground wash, that's all that's necessary.
And should I tuck my legs up?
No. That's changing your CG, and you'll be wondering why.
So just keep my feet together.
Rigid, like a Prussian general. If you were to hover and tilt your head, you'd move forward. Tilt your head to the side, you drift to the side. That's how sensitive it is.
Okay.
Remember, you have to fly it down.
Yeah.
Don't just cut it if you can help it. If you can regain yourself, do it.
Yeah.
Okay? Because once you're free and you have a problem, there's nobody going to catch you.
Very difficult to fly. You have a center of gravity shift quite dramatic very quickly. See, the roll control is a big problem. For everybody I've seen trying to learn, you just roll off to the side, and once you do that, the tendency is to stick your foot out, and you're sticking your foot out right into jet blast, which just knocks you off the other way.
It's something you have to feel. It has to come from within. I don't want to make it sound too flowery, but you either got it or you don't.
David's burning hundreds of dollars worth of fuel with every bunny hop and not making progress. In frustration, he turns to Bill and asks the veteran pilot if he'll test the belt himself.
It's not, it's not going to happen right away.
I want you to try it. You'll be able to tell very quickly if...
That's what I'm thinking about.
Why don't we swap in? Because then otherwise I just burn another tank of gas.
It's been years since Bill's strapped on a rocket.
It isn't something you're going to learn, you know, in 4 or 5 flights. Just not. What's wrong with this picture? just a.
Well, I'm gonna have.
You can't treat it like a machine. Once this thing is strapped on you, it's got to become a part of your body and a part of your mind that's automatic. And you now have the power of flight, just like you have the power to walk or run or swim.
The tether was pulling me all over the place. The belt is great. There's nothing wrong with the belt. Good job.
You made it, me?
Everybody. Your machine's got balls.
Yeah.
We will name this one El Toro. This is one powerful monster. It really is. Wow. I'm impressed. Believe me. Not that I ever want to get back doing this. You know, this is a younger man's sport.
Bill's shown that the belt works fine, which means that the issue's with me in terms of pilot control, and I just need more time, more training.
But it's time David may not have. His supply of precious fuel is running low, and every time he orders more, it takes weeks to arrive.
He had an explosion. He got hydrogen peroxide in his face.
I just called Gunnar straight away, and he's obviously pretty devastated.
Started leaking hydrogen peroxide into the production facility, and then there was a runaway reaction, so the entire plant exploded, basically, and burned to the ground.
Oh, wow.
It's their livelihood, but it's also his father's health. He's in hospital. He's stable, but they, you know, at one stage they didn't know what was happening, and he's lost his sight. But apparently that will come back. Luckily, I've got several pallets en route to Los Angeles now from Sweden. Before this, obviously before this happened, it was produced, but it's not enough even to train me. It's not enough, you know, if you talk to Bill Suter or Nelson Tyler or Kenny Gibson or any of those guys, it's sort of 70 plus flights that they took before they were off the tether. You know, I'll only have half of that.
David must now make his toughest decision yet. He certainly won't have enough fuel to complete his training. Should he abandon his quest or push on? David's rocket belt has been put to the test by the world's most experienced pilot, and it's proved to be a beast.
This is one powerful monster. It really is. Wow.
But the beast is proving hard to tame.
You hear that it's like balancing on a beach ball in the middle of the surf or middle of the ocean. And you think, well, that's not possible. Nothing can be that tricky, but actually it is. So, yeah, it is harder than I thought it was going to be, but what can I do?
And his only source of fuel has gone up in flames.
The whole plant has exploded, burnt to the ground.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they won't be continuing production. So there's now no peroxide anywhere in the world.
Unless he makes a successful tether flight soon, he'll not have enough fuel to perfect the skills required to make a free flight over Sydney Harbour. Just as things are beginning to look up, there's a burst of raw peroxide.
I love the smell of peroxide in the morning. We got a leak around the top of the catalyst pack. My eyes are burning.
I don't think it's leaking there. I think.
Did you see it come out?
Around the catalyst, yeah.
We actually saw it
Down in
here.
this ring right here.
Well,
maybe we should.
Yeah, let's just get. It's too hot to work on.
The temperamental catalyst pack is playing up again.
Not down at the bottom of it. Yeah, I wanted to get.
These aren't stuck to that.
Wow. Jesus mercy, that is...
On opening the catalyst pack, the team discovers that the peroxide fuel has destroyed the silver catalyst screens, causing the sudden loss of power.
Look at these things. These are plugged. These holes. That is an absolute mess.
David's plan was to leave for Australia tomorrow to prepare for his big flight. But he realises that if this happens over Sydney Harbour, the outcome could be lethal.
I'm taking some time out from the facility. It is a life-threatening exercise. There are some key things that can go wrong. Nobody wants to kill themselves for any reason, let alone for something which could be considered a passion or a hobby, but I don't want to get a stuck throttle valve or poison catalyst or problems with the fuel. So I'm just thinking through, have we done everything we possibly can? This whole project has put a lot of pressure on my wife and my two daughters. I feel a huge level of responsibility, as any father would. I love my family dearly, and so I take that part of this whole thing very, very seriously.
While Nelson rebuilds the belt, David makes the decision to push on. He returns to Sydney with his US flight team to recce the site of his flight.
So this is round about where the barge would be, just down here.
We'd like to get the barge ballasted heavy.
If he succeeds, he will be the first man to fly a rocket belt over these famous waters.
This is Sydney Harbour, mate, look. Opera House, Harbour Bridge. Where was the takeoff point?
Right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
191 metres.
So this is roughly where the barge would sit?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So welcome to the Australian bush, Bill. Everything will kill you.
David's rocket belt arrives from Los Angeles, looking as good as new.
Having taken it apart only a couple of days ago in Los Angeles.
The peroxide that we've got here, we've got 24 drums. They're the last drums that were produced in Sweden before Eric unfortunately blew up the plant there.
This farm outside of Sydney will be the final base of operations.
I don't remember it being this heavy in America, Robert.
Landing is job number 1. Or is that 11? 1. That was all you. We're about to get David fledged. First free flight. And he's going to do it. And he's going to do it well.
This is the first untethered flight for me, and Bill's given me the sign-off. Frankly, I'm nervous as hell, but gonna give it a shot.
I've kept him alive up to this point. Now it's up to him.
With the harbour flight just days away, this is the moment of truth.
While he was getting strapped in there, I could see his breathing, and I know the anxiety he's feeling. You never want to admit it.
It's not macho. I'm feeling nervous. I'm crapping myself, but I'm gonna do it. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, man.
For his maiden free flight, David needs to stay low and slow without losing control. Technically, David has now officially entered the history books as a rocket man. But Bill wants to up the ante to see if he's comfortable flying high.
Did I go over it? Yeah!
With a controlled free flight under his belt, the flight across Sydney Harbour is finally within his grasp, and just in time, as the big day is fast approaching.
It's a long way, very long way, but you know, we're strong.
The team assembles for the all-important pre-flight meeting with safety officers and rescue divers.
You have to have a full face
No,
helmet.
maybe not. I hadn't really thought about it, so it's possibly not.
If you face plant or hit the barge side on, that full face helmet will save your face from being ripped apart.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11 left. 11 tanks left. Oh well.
David's got to get his technique and rocket belt perfect to stand any chance of pulling off this big stunt. Rocket belt expert Nelson Tyler comes to lend a hand.
Well, in the last day or so, he's been losing a lot of power. You know, it hasn't flown very well. Yeah, on full throttle, but he's not climbing. Took the catalyst pack apart, and the screens have been stripped to their silver. For some reason, maybe the fuel did it. But we had some brand new super coated silver with very furry, thick.
Oh, it's half the size.
Between 125 and 150 of these screens go in here.
Bolting it together now as we speak. Do another flight tonight before, it's 6 o'clock already, and it should be very powerful.
Rocket man.
The monster machine should now be the most powerful rocket belt ever made. Maybe too powerful.
Hold it, hold. Camera's back, hold on. Okay, we need to get you out of there. Get out. It's open.
The catalyst pack has completely malfunctioned. It's become superheated from the fuel reaction and risks exploding.
No, nobody has seen that happen before, which basically as soon as I punched the throttle, the hydrogen peroxide would have melted the whole silver screen set, and then it just started spitting out metal.
I didn't want to go down the list of things that could have happened then, you know. Starting with the molten metal dripping on the high-pressure fiber-wound bottle.
I didn't know what was happening behind me, so you know, I could see Robert's eyes were like this big.
All I was trying to do is get him out of the belt. If he had to drop it, whatever he had to do, just because I don't need it hurting him.
It's, you know, it was quite a...
Reality check.
Yeah. Thank you. Saving me one more time. Ka-chink on the list. Shit.
Probably have transferred a ton of heat to the valve.
It's probably all melted together into a gob.
So it's a matter of whether we can get it out.
David seems to have unlimited energy and enthusiasm. Oh, we'll take it apart and fix it. I think the thing will be melted solid inside there. We still have some regular screens. If we can get that out, put the new ones in, well, maybe there'll be enough thrust to do the job. But we only have tomorrow for practice. 3 or 4 more flights, and then he's going to try to do this thing Friday. Tune in. This is to be continued.
If it's not one thing, it's another. I think it's just starting to take its toll on not just me, but the whole team. We're not getting much sleep, and you know, every time we think we've got something right, something else fails. So personally, I'm getting pretty disheartened about the whole thing. Robert and I will work on it again this afternoon, this evening, and tomorrow. And you know, all we can do is see where we get up to.
Working round the clock, the team decide to take one more crack at the belt.
So we've changed the throttle valve again. You know, we've changed a one-way valve to give it more throughput. We've actually bored out the regulator a bit more to give us more throughput there. We've upped the nitrogen pressure, and, you know, all of these in combination should give me more power. I want to set that at 800. So I'm about to fly, and, you know, like, fingers crossed, toes crossed, that's made the difference. I just don't know whether it's going to make too much difference and shoot me to the stars.
See, he was used to no power. There's an automatic up force built in those handles. Not expecting that. But that's what it does. It blows you right over backwards.
Luckily, the rocket belt is undamaged, and with plenty of power, David tries again. It's all systems go for the harbour attempt.
I'm really excited because I didn't think it was going to happen at all.
Well, this is incredible, the amount of time he's been flying, that he's off the wire and doing this. So I'm pleased as punch. I'll go home tomorrow a happy man. Thank you.
The little pep talk.
Focus.
Focus. Look at me.
Now he's a rocket man.
Nelson and Bill said, take it from there, go to the flight over the harbour. Don't risk doing anything else. You'll break yourself, you'll break the machine. It's like Icarus was just, he had to fly closer and closer to the sun until he melted his wings.
Throwing caution to the wind, David decides to fly one more time. It proves to be a huge mistake.
In this case, I melted my leg.
The steam from the 730 degrees Celsius thrust tubes has caused third-degree burns to David's thigh. The doctor recommends he abandon his flight attempt immediately.
Most of the belt is in decent shape. He didn't hurt too much, so we should be able to have it back together in a couple hours.
I'm back. Rocket Man is back. And ready to fly. Rocket Man!
And I have a nasty feeling that I may have just touched the throttle the wrong way, so this is, I need the power came off the throttle, just went bang. I could feel the nozzle lying on my leg. I could hear it, like just eating flesh. It was great.
Blood and goo.
At least you're still alive.
That's right, you stopped me from dying at least. There's nothing in the contract about burning.
Against doctor's orders,
What are we doing?
David decides to go ahead with his plans for Sydney Harbour. He's come too far to let any injury stop him now.
We need him just to make sure everything's good with the belt before he goes and tries to fly tomorrow.
For once, the belt is in good shape, but David is not. Having assembled the best rocket belt team in the world, David is now on a collision course with his history-making mission.
There's a lot of water between here and the barge. Yeah.
I think if we have to use an ambulance pickup, we'll use the man-of-war steps over in the Opera House.
If I have a head injury, spinal injury, blah, 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 all that stuff I want to get out of my head now.
Not only does David have to contend with his nerves and a long list of potential technical failures, yesterday he sustained serious burns during the final training session.
I told the doctor there's a chance I'm going to land in the water, and she said, can't let you go then. So we had to distract her while I ran out.
This is the culmination of a lifelong dream.
It's a bit nerve-wracking, but, you know, this is what we set out to do. You know, this is what the whole project was about. So see what happens.
Robert makes his final checks and then cautiously fuels from the last remaining drum of hydrogen peroxide.
We got everything straightened back out, so we should be good. If not, he's gonna be swimming with the sharks.
The only thing I worry about is not David. I think he's ready. It's the belt. It's been a little soggy, this belt. You know, we've got the pressure up as high as you dare and the fuel full and hope that it has the power.
David knows that a dip in the harbour could have dire consequences, including infecting his burnt leg.
Everyone's probably a little nervous because this is what we've been working for. So we're there. My nerves will go away once he's off that deck.
Good luck. We won't let you fall over. Just make sure you go forward, not backward.
David stands on the precipice, his dream laid out before him. David falls in the water and disappears from view, just meters from the landing barge. The divers have to get 80 kilos off his back before they can pull him to safety. Although wet and exhausted, David is exhilarated.
Are you cold?
I'm sort of two minds. I feel completely overwhelmed and elated that I didn't die and that I didn't drown, but I didn't get to the barge, and that was the real goal.
Good work. Got a good dunking.
5 meters. It was literally 5 meters, and I would have landed on the barge. But oh my God, I felt 2 tons lighter at the end of the flight when I knew it was over, even though I'd landed in the water. I've never been on a ride where you just didn't know what to expect every day. Whether it was going to be a good day and you were going to take a leap forward. I'm getting there. Or there's going to be a bad day and you're going to take a leap back and fall on your ass. So it has all been worthwhile in my mind. There are things that I could have done differently. There are things that I probably wouldn't have done. It's always like that, though, when you look back. And my God, it was exhilarating. You know, it was a fantastic project. But what's next? You know, and I know what's next. It's better, it's bigger, it's louder, it's faster, and it lasts a lot longer.